in Nevada. Thank you for tuning in for our live results of Nevada's caucus, where Donald Trump is going to be on the border. I'm Charlie, and I am the country conservative.
And I'm Brendan Statler of The Brendan Statler Show.
Like I said, thank you for tuning in. We're going to be sitting there talking about what's going to be happening with the Nevada caucus tonight and Trump, on the ballot this time. And we're also going to be talking about a bunch of other things like the primary the other night with Nikki Haley and her disaster. But first, I want to talk about the Nevada caucus. The Nevada caucus, if I could talk, operate very differently from the more common primary election used by most other states. The caucuses are generally defined as a gathering of neighbors. Rather than going to the polls and casting ballots, Nevadans gather at set locations throughout the state in their precincts. The meeting occurs in various locations: schools, churches, public libraries, casinos, and other individual homes. The caucuses are held every 4 years to determine whom Nevada's delegates will support in choosing Republican or a Democratic president. In addition to the voting and presidential preferences, caucus goers may begin the process of writing their party's platforms by introducing resolutions, but most of that's not dealt with until the state convention level. Unlike in a primary, the Nevada caucus does not result directly in national delegates for each candidate. Instead, caucus goers elect delegates to county conventions, who in turn elect delegates to state conventions where Nevada's national convention delegates are selected. So that's why Trump chose for the Republican caucus instead of the primary. This is supposed to get more people out to vote. Text.
And plus, he knew
we'll see what happens, but you understand that we're not going to be getting the returns in tonight because they are 3 hours difference from us. But we are going to be going over different stuff throughout this evening. And where do you want to start to, Brendan?
I guess we could talk a little bit about last night. Another reason President Trump probably chose to take part in the caucus and not the primary is because he knew that even if nobody else is on the ballot, Nikki Haley would still get humiliated. Nikki Haley has said it herself multiple times, nobody could stop her. Well, nobody is the exact name that humiliated her in the primary the other night. I could go over some numbers here real quick. This is with 86% in, assuming these numbers are still accurate. The none of these candidates option got 47,077 votes. Nikki Haley has 22,611 votes. So that is a tremendous gap to nobody over Nikki Haley.
Yeah, do you think it would be embarrassing that she's gotten beat by a ghost? And she doesn't seem to have a problem with it.
But she and everybody
go ahead.
Go ahead, Charlotte. And I'll go real quick. And everybody knows that the majority of these people that selected none of these candidates are Trump voters. These were essentially votes for Trump. It's even more embarrassing that so many people made a point of going and voting that night just to vote against Nikki Haley. And this is not an open primary like New Hampshire was. This is strictly Republican voters. So Nikki Haley cannot win when it's just Republican voters. She needs Democrats and left-leaning independents to keep her afloat.
Oh, you're not kidding. But whenever I was sitting there watching her interview on here, and she sits there and says, Nikki Haley says Nevada is rigged after losing to none of these candidates. Well, that's an election denier right there.
So yeah, cue the CNN breaking news.
Exactly.
Nikki Haley's an election denier.
So I want you to see part of this interview with her and denying the Nevada election was rigged. Also, telling the Nevadians that they're not worth her time or money. Listen to this.
Does that situation in Nevada hurt a little bit?
No, I mean, Nevada, it's such a scam. They were supposed to have a primary. Trump rigged it so that the GOP chairman, who's been indicted, would go and create a caucus. We knew months ago that we weren't going to spend a day or a dollar in Nevada because it wasn't worth it. And so we didn't even count Nevada. That wasn't anything we were looking at. We knew that was rigged.
Do you know the
from
video
start.
froze?
Our
Is it
focus
frozen
is
on your end?
South Carolina, Michigan, Super Tuesday. So if you look what we did in Iowa and you look what we did in New Hampshire,
frozen.
we're continuing to grow. That's what matters, I think, more
How
than
it's
anything
going?
else.
They probably didn't see half of that.
I'm going to see when it comes up here and see if it goes through. But if you don't believe what she said, she told the Nevadian people that they are not worth her time or money to put into their election. So how would you want somebody like that as a president of the United States? And we've got one hell of a delay right now. So
Wasn't that a similar message that the Biden team did with New Hampshire? Was it New Hampshire where he wasn't on the ballot?
yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, that was a similar message they gave. They didn't think that New Hampshire was that important for their reelection, so they didn't even bother to get sleepy oatmeal brains on to the ballot. They just assumed that everybody would write them in like they did. But it just goes to show how these people think. They don't care about any states that don't have as many electoral points. If it was up to these people, it would be California and New York electing the president every election. That's why they tried to ban the Electoral College all these years. When the one true statement that the Democrats have been saying lately is Trump is a threat to democracy. And he is, because we are not a democracy. We are a republic. The deep state would love nothing more than for us to be a democracy so they could have tyranny of the majority. And Trump is the only one standing in the way from us becoming a democracy.
Yeah, you got that right. That's for sure. And I don't think I put that video on here. Doggone it. I forgot. Well, Biden's been making all kind of blunders, and I know I have it somewhere, that he was talking to a dead man that's been dead since 1996. And I forgot to put that. I forgot to put that one on here.
What about the one? Was it just today? It was in the related to his documents they took. He said that he couldn't remember when he was vice president or something. That was in the deposition or something like this.
It was today. They just released.
He was saying it was 20. He said something along the lines. It was 2013. When was I last vice president or something like this? It wasn't that long ago, of course.
Yeah, he couldn't. Let's see. I did have that on here because they just released that, and the report's not on here, but they did say that they're not charging him with any of the documents because he's a feeble old man, but he did give away secrets and stuff and shouldn't have had classified information. But because his mind's shot, they wouldn't find a jury that would convict him, even if the DOJ wanted to. So, there's a setup going here. So, but now they're saying he's okay to be president, but he's not okay to face any trials or hearings.
Yeah, they basically said that he is suffering from dementia without directly coming out and saying he's suffering from dementia. That was the whole rationale for not charging him with a crime, because they said, and I can't remember the exact quote, but at his age and at his current state, his memory is not good. So this guy is too old and feeble to be charged with a crime, a clear crime, but he's just fine to be president of the United States.
Right. And I'm going to give you a quote here. said he did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of his interview when his term ended, if it was 2013, when did I stop being vice president, like you said, and forgetting on the second day of the interview when his term began in 2009, am I still vice president? He asked that question. Now it's a quote. It said Herr wrote summarizing the interview. He did not remember, even within several years, when his son Bo died. He couldn't remember the date of his son's death, which is a problem. You can't remember when your own son died. There's an issue. But yeah, you're right. And how is he going to be fit enough to be a president right now?
On his defense, he is still technically vice president because we all know Barack Obama is running the show. That's what Obama told us shortly after Joe Biden was installed into the White House. He said, if I could be in my basement, my sweatpants, making the calls for somebody else, I would do it. That's exactly what they're doing. They gave away the whole game plan right there. And, but if you raised that to anybody, you were a crazy conspiracy theorist. It's like, no, he literally laid out what they're doing. And I don't think it's limited to Barack Obama. I think it's a lot of people, but I think Obama's making the majority of the decisions behind the scenes. So Biden technically is vice president still, I guess, or vice resident because he wasn't elected to anything. But
most definitely, because here I got to what he said at a campaign event on Wednesday. President Biden twice said that he had spoken to German Chancellor Helmut Kohl at a diplomatic meeting in the United Kingdom shortly after January 6th riot. However, Kohl died in 2017. Biden was likely referring to former Chancellor Angela Merkel, who resigned in late 2021. But at a separate event on Sunday, Biden confused current French President Emmanuel Macron with former President Francois Mitterrand, who died in 1996. So he may have sit up there and said, and I watched the video, said that he spoke with him, and he told him, and this was yesterday, he spoke with him. So this man should not be sitting in that White House right now at all.
I don't know why this is a shock to so many people. I mean, this is the same guy during the 2020 election who, on a few occasions, thought he was running against George Bush. There hasn't been a Bush run for president, at least, make it to the general election since 2004. That's quite some time. So he's constantly confusing people, left and right. I mean, this is the same guy confused his wife with his sister on the campaign trail. So it shouldn't be shocking that he thought he met with someone recently that died clear back in 1996, or maybe he's just, seeing dead people.
Oh, I can believe that. Now back to
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yes. Nikki Haley is they're talking about how much candidates are spending on trying to beat out Donald Trump. And it's pretty much of a shame where the campaigns are spending money to buy people's votes instead of going off their own, what do I want to say? Off their own ideas of what they have plans for the country if they become president. Because in the last minute spending spree, totals have been spending in 2024 presidential rates have nearly went to $307.7 million as of January 23rd. Nikki Haley has spent $112.6 million, where Donald Trump has spent $42 million. But it's a shame when they base their campaign on the more money we spend, the more votes we're going to buy trying to beat Donald Trump instead of going off their own record. And I think that's a shame.
Well, what's she going to run on? She sucks.
She does.
There's nothing positive that can be said about her, really. She was a disaster in the Trump administration. From what I hear, she didn't do such a great job as governor of South Carolina, and that's going to be reflective of the votes in South Carolina this upcoming primary. I'm sure she's almost like Joe Biden in heels, or as Vivek Ramaswamy would say, Dick Cheney in heels. All three would be the same. They have no record to run on. They really haven't done anything positive.
Oh, you're right. But you see here in this chart I put up, in 2020, the total was $21.3 million. And right now in 2024, we're at $307.9 million. Now, this is a ridiculous amount of money to spend on elections when we have people starving to death in our streets. And I'm not talking about the illegal criminals on the streets either. I'm talking about our own American citizens. And they're spending money trying to waste it, just trying to beat Trump. And that's a shame.
Especially when there's no chance for victory. Like, I can see spending money if you're running for office, if it's a competitive race. This hasn't been a competitive race from the start. Even when there were multiple candidates, this has been Donald Trump's race since he announced he was running. It's not even close. All the other candidates have recognized that, and that's why they've dropped out. Everybody has recognized it, but Nikki Haley. This has been Donald Trump's race from the start. And, anybody with the slightest bit of common sense could have recognized this, because I'm only 24 years old, and I said it. I said, if Trump announces he is running for president, he has the nomination. There's no sense in anybody else running.
You're right there. Now, Trump did pick up a endorsement today from the International Police Associations, which is a good thing. It's a big union right there. And it's not like the UAW where the president of the United Auto Workers announced himself as backing Biden, and not the same day he announced that most of his union rep members are going to vote for Trump. So that's really ridiculous when you're going to say you're going to back somebody and you don't get approval from your other members before you say something like that.
That's why unions now are such garbage, in my opinion. I mean, you look at every union out there, whether it's the United Mine Workers or if it's the teachers union, they always go against, what the majority of their workforce wants. It's no secret that the majority of blue collar workers, the majority of union workers, are pro-Trump, despite the fact that Biden tries to claim to be the most pro-union president since FDR. The majority of union blue collar workers support Trump. So why is it that all of them, why is it that all of these unions always endorse the Democrats against the wishes of the majority, the vast majority of their workers? They're the ones that pay union dues for you to speak on their behalf, and you endorse the guy that not only they don't support, but are working every day to destroy their industry of work.
Exactly. And that's exactly what Biden's doing. They don't understand the fact that Biden is pushing this new Green Deal, and that when he pushes electric vehicles, it takes a portion of what it takes to make a vehicle when they make electric vehicles compared to gas. So a majority of their workers are going to get laid off if they go total electric.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you back somebody like that?
That's why I said I would never want to work in a union right now. I don't know, I know some people that say, they're thankful for the unions, because the unions helped them out a lot back in the day, whatever. I don't know what unions were like back in the day. All I know is what they are now, and I wouldn't want a part of it because they take your money, like I said, and they're supposed to be speaking on your behalf. Then they use that money, throw it at people like Hillary Clinton's campaign, Barack Obama's campaign, Joe Biden's campaign. That's your money that they're throwing
Right.
at these people that you do not support.
Right, and that's where I like my union that I used to be in with the Department of Corrections, because they had our backs constantly. When I got hurt, they had my back then. And you get a vote on stuff with this union, and we are a huge union in Pennsylvania, and they cover the whole Department of Corrections and some other ones, not just the Department of Corrections, just as far as the officers and stuff goes. But I also have update on the Virgin Island, and the results are in, and they're calling it for Donald Trump already. They don't have a lot of voters in there. Donald Trump got 74% of the votes. Nikki Haley got 26. And it's kind of embarrassing to say the totals right now, but Donald Trump got 182 votes and Nikki Haley got 64. So they do not have a lot of voters in there, but this was, and all 4 delegates in the Virgin Islands went to Donald Trump. So we did get that at least tonight. And we'll probably be getting the rest of them to late tonight or early tomorrow. And we do have we got a lot of stuff coming up here real soon. Our next election will be on the 24th in South Carolina. It'll be the Republican presidential primary. There's 50 delegates, Republican delegates, going to be coming. And then on the 27th, we got Michigan coming up. And here sometime, let's see, in March, let's see, was it? Yeah, March 5th, we've got a huge one coming up, which is Super Tuesday. And that's going to be, we're going to be on air for quite some time on that day, because we've got 16 different states going to be voting on Super Tuesday. And that's something we can cover. Polls will be closing probably around 7, and then they close at different times across the country. So we will definitely be on the air for that. We got a couple more. We got Michigan on the 27th of February. We got Michigan again on the 2nd of March. And we also, on the 2nd of March, we also have Idaho and Missouri. So we've got a lot to be covering here between now and the general election. So I hope you guys will all tune in with us and stay with us while we'll do this, because we're going to have a lot to discuss. Every day's an adventure with this Biden administration. I did find out, and I don't know if you've heard, Brendan, but the border bill failed.
Yeah.
You hear that?
Yeah, I did.
Well, now you've got the Senate trying to push through another bill, a foreign aid bill of $95 billion that does not include the southern border whatsoever.
Yeah, it passed the Senate. I guess it's going to the House now, where it's expected to fail.
The $95 billion one?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I didn't hear that. I know it would. They brought it up, and the only thing that it included was foreign aid for Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and some humanitarian efforts for Gaza. But it does not include securing our border and protecting our people.
Nope.
Which hopefully it'll fail, because this is uncalled for, because the last one failed when they only wanted to give, what would you say it was? $20 million? Or 20,
yeah, 20 billion is what they wanted to give for our border, and then they wanted to send another 60 billion to Ukraine in this bipartisan border bill that Chuck Schumer had his hair on fire. What's what he has left anyway on Morning Joe the other night. It's just funny how the Democrats have done nothing this entire time about border security. Matter of fact, they're the ones that created the problem. Now that it's an election year, now all of a sudden they're pro border security, and they want to blame it. They put forward a lousy bill that does nothing to secure the border. Not one thing to
Right.
secure the border. It was a Ukraine bill disguised as a border bill. They put that forward, knowing that it's going to fail. Republicans that are worth anything aren't going to vote for this, and it's going to fail. Then they can run with the narrative, because the Mockingbird media will parrot it for them, that Donald Trump told the Republicans not to vote for the bill because he doesn't want to secure the border because he could use it as leverage throughout the election. It's just, aren't these the same people that told us, for the previous 2 years that Biden's been in the White House, that the border is secure and there is no problem at the border? Kamala Harris went to the border and she said there's no problem here.
Yep.
Isn't that what they told us the last 2 years? When did it change?
Over and over again.
Yep, because it's an election year.
Right. And they keep doing this over and over again. And that's where it comes down to the impeachment about Mayorkas and it failing, there was a reason why one of the Republicans changed his vote. He went from to yes to impeach him to a no. And it was a good thing that he did, because when he did no, they can do a redo on the impeachment of him, which supposedly the second vote's coming up here soon. Mike Johnson said on Wednesday there will be another vote to impeach him, likely next week. And he also hits back on those who were questioning his leadership about all this stuff. But when he's new and he's inexperienced in this, but the whole Republican Party is showing weak.
Yeah. I think Mike Johnson deserves every bit of criticism he's gotten lately. He, the first thing he said once he came up for nomination for Speaker was that he did not believe in continuing resolutions. He did not want any more continuing resolutions. What was the first thing he signed when it was brought to him? It's just he, in my opinion, has been worse than Kevin McCarthy, and Kevin McCarthy was a disaster. Mike Johnson deserves every bit of criticism he has gotten, and probably even a little more, honestly. He's been a disaster. He leans. I appreciate the fact he's a Christian. I do, but you have to show some fight. You have to show some fight at some point. You can't just constantly lean on your Bible, in a sense, and not do any action. That's not the business you are in. You could still be a strong Christian, have a Christian worldview, but you got to throw a punch when it's time to throw a punch in this business. If you can't do it, then put the gavel down and let's have somebody else in there.
But it seems like a lot of these Republicans are doing this, and I can understand them wanting to be the party of law, but the Democrats aren't playing by those rules.
No, if they're playing dirty like they have been, you have to play dirty back. There's no way you win. It's like when it comes to the legal ballot harvesting, I think it's all a bunch of garbage. I think it should be illegal. But the Republicans, the way it is set up right now, have no choice but to play that game. Democrats are playing it. You have to do it. I'm not a fan of early voting either, but if that's what they're doing, we need to. That's the game we need to play till we can get back in power and we can possibly make some changes.
Right, but the Republicans also need to force the fact that with these mail-in ballots and stuff, okay, nothing was changed on it, but you better make sure that every ballot box has a working camera on them. And if one doesn't have it, every one of those ballots should be void.
I agree.
Because it's not properly secured like it's supposed to be under the Constitution or under the rules that they made when it came to mail-in ballots. Because they've shown proof over time and time again of people stacking those boxes with fake ballots. And it was proven right on camera. And you saw it on, 2,000 Mules?
Yep.
And they showed what was it called? Map tracing or something when they were tracing cell phones.
Yeah.
And showed just multiple people going to different things, different ballot boxes. And then some of the cameras were working. They caught the same person dropping multiple ballots off in each one of these. that is something that Republicans need to step on.
Yeah,
And
drop boxes need to go immediately. That
exactly.
that spells disaster. But that's what these people want. They want disaster. They're not doing this because it's more convenient to vote. They're doing it because they want disaster. Honestly, Charlie, how long before you were able to vote through your cell phone? How long before you were able to vote through Facebook?
Yep.
Those days are coming. And they're not that far off. If we get to that point, we're done. We're finished. We will never have a serious election in this country again.
No doubt. And I believe in IDs. Everybody has to have an ID to vote. You have to have an ID for everything else. You can't even drink a beer without having an ID.
You can't even buy a pack of cigarettes anymore without showing an ID. You can't do nothing without an ID.
Exactly. I mean, shit. When I was young, you could go in and buy cigarettes whenever you wanted to without an ID. Oh hell, I used to drink before I was 21 without an ID.
Shit, you can't even get into the goddamn casino. You can't even get into the Meadows Casino without showing ID.
That's for sure.
But you don't have to show it to vote. It's ridiculous.
It is, and I mean, you're getting all these illegal alien criminals getting fake IDs. And that's out of control. Now I see where, I can't remember if it's New York or who, they're evicting 800 illegal immigrants out of their hotel rooms. Where's that going to happen now? They're going to the streets, which they need to be going back home where they came from.
They should send them all. They should send them all to Biden's house.
Yeah, they tried that once already, and he was not there. With the mention of Biden, if you remember, Bolton, he's a former ambassador of the United Nations, was on Newsmax, and he's saying that Iran is calling the shots when it comes to the Biden administration. They said, Bolton to Newsmax, Iran treats Biden administration with contempt. That's no different than what China does to him and everybody else, because we're a joke on the world stage because of this demented fool. And I have a video let's see. One I'd like to play a lot because it's about 1:39 long. It's all the bumbling and falling down and everything that this man does. So I want you to watch this.
He touched down not even 4 hours ago.
That was a quick trip, but as you said, very impactful.
He has allocated to invest in police departments and training of police officers. It appears as though the president did have a slight trip there as he's boarding Air Force One.
No matter what their cost, 2, 10, 12, 15. Oops, stepping on them. That's black. Anyway.
Joe Biden.
What do you think of that?
Honestly, it feels like over the last few years we've just been living through the longest episode of Punk'd ever. Like, really, this is the guy that's leading the country? It's just that. Does anybody really believe he's in charge?
Oh, they can't. They're that damn dumb. Oops. That damn dumb to believe this, and most and there's liberals that are. They are that damn stupid enough to listen to everything that they say, even that liar KJP. They sit there and believe every word that comes out of these people's mouths. Even though you throw them the facts to them, they still don't listen.
I wonder if Chris Wallace still believes that Biden's inauguration speech was. Apparently,
Yes.
Charlie's frozen.
Yeah, you were frozen too.
You froze there a little bit. You're back now. Oh.
I don't know what's going on. As everything seems to be fine on my side.
Yeah, everything's good now. Didn't see you moving for a second. I'm like, Charlie's frozen. Time to improvise.
But you know
But
what?
it's just
go ahead.
good. No, you go ahead. Good.
Things are going on around here, and with all these elections going on, and Joe Biden screwing up everything around the world, we just got to get people out to vote. We have to. If you have a neighbor that needs help getting out to vote, you guys need to go out there and help them. That's why I say this on all my videos. This election is so important that we cannot hesitate. Can't sit back and just relax and say, well, Biden's going to sweep this. No, we got to get out and vote. We got to make sure the Democrats do not control an ounce of power come next year. And this election is what's going to help us do that. So if you know somebody, help them out, get them registered to vote. Call friends, text friends, whatever. Make sure they're registered to vote so we can get people out there and get Trump's numbers up like crazy, because they're trying everything in their power to stop him. I listened to the Supreme Court today with Donald Trump's hearing on taking him off the ballot. And the attorneys from Colorado, all they kept saying is calling Trump an insurrectionist. There was no insurrection. And you keep calling him an insurrectionist. There is no, and every one of the justices sounded like they were backing Trump's position. Let's say that.
Yeah, even the liberal justices, like even Ketanji Brown Jackson, of all people, made some decent points. Kind of in Trump's favor. Who knows if she'll actually vote in favor of Trump, because she was nominated by Biden.
Right.
But she made some interesting points when it comes to, I think she was the one anyway that was talking about due process, and Amy Coney Barrett said something similar. They all, had a similar message for the most part. But Ketanji Brown Jackson basically said, that Trump hasn't been convicted. He hasn't even been charged. So what would be the reason for doing this? How do we go about doing this, essentially? So I think it's going to be at least a 7-2 victory for Trump. I don't think it goes 9-0, even though all the liberal justices made some points in Trump's favor. I still think they're going to be partisan and vote to kick him off the ballot. But I think it's going to. I think 7-2 is probably in the ballpark for where it's going to go. There's no way Supreme Court votes to keep him off the ballot. There's just no way they get involved in it.
No, you're right. But you said exactly right, because all the justices were telling them that exactly what you said. Trump has not been charged with insurrection, and they kept calling him, and it kept pissing me off because he's never been charged or never been found guilty of an insurrection. None of the defendants for January 6th have been found guilty of an insurrection. And these idiot attorneys for them kept saying this through that whole hearing. Now, and if you listen to the end, they're in recess until next Friday. So I don't know. They're going to.
Yeah, if you,
I think it's 18.
yeah, I think you're right. But if you, if you pay attention to this, this whole 14th Amendment debacle, yeah, like you said, Trump hasn't been charged with anything remotely related to insurrection. Nothing even remotely related to insurrection. So every time somebody calls him an insurrectionist, that is based off of opinion and nothing more. You cannot start treating people as criminals just because, in your opinion, they are one. It's just either, if that was the case, just about all of us would be in jail. Me and Charlie would be in jail for, doing these streams because somebody out there would see it, and in their opinion, we would be criminals for doing this. It's
Right.
just you can't convict somebody off of opinion. You can't treat them as if they are a criminal before they have been convicted in a court of law, not a court of opinion.
Exactly. But and even the justices did say today that the 14th Amendment does not include the presidency. So they can't base their arguments off of the 14th Amendment because it does not include them. And then even the Gorsuch and all of them were telling those Colorado dipwit attorneys that, what do you want us to do? And this guy kept saying, well, you need to do this. And it's like, okay, you're an idiot. And I just don't see with what I listened to today that they could come back with okay, you could take him off the ballot deal. And I don't see it happening. But, with this Democrat Party, you never know.
Yeah, I just don't see any way, based off the way the majority of the justices talk today. I'd be shocked if they don't rule in Trump's favor. And it's, if they rule in Trump's favor, this is going to be very important. Depend on how they rule on this, that is going to set the precedent for the rest of the nation. If they rule in Trump's favor, all these states, are trying to kick him off the ballot.
Right.
They're going to back off. They're not going to kick him off the ballot. But if they happen to rule against Trump, every single state, including the communism of Pennsylvania here, which is, it always seems to come down to Pennsylvania, will kick him off the ballot. But, one thing I'm interested to see, just say they vote against Trump on this and states start kicking him off the ballot. How are they going to justify not counting write-in votes for Donald Trump? Because a lot of people would write in Donald Trump. Like I said, I don't think that that's going to happen. I think Supreme Court's going to rule in Trump's favor, and it's not even going to be close, and it's going to kill this whole 14th Amendment witch hunt. And, and Trump's going to remain on the ballot and have a landslide victory, assuming we all go out and vote. But it's just interesting to think about. This has never happened before, where a presidential candidate is accused of insurrection. So how would they handle that situation?
Right.
Because
exactly.
if people are writing them in, how are you going to disenfranchise all those voters and tell them that their vote doesn't count?
That is so true. And only time will tell on this.
I truly think at that point it would start a war if it came down to that.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's no way you could justify doing that.
No, that's
It's
true.
just that they wouldn't be doing this if Trump was, winning in massive numbers. Like if it was completely flipped, Nikki Haley had Trump's numbers and Trump had Nikki Haley's numbers, the 14th Amendment wouldn't even be discussed right now. None of these other show trials would even be discussed or be happening right now either. It's because he's winning. They're scared to death of him becoming president again because they know that their reign is over if he takes the White House back.
Right. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Our next live feed will be on the 24th for the South Carolina Republican presidential primary. where 50 delegates are online for this, and we will be able to get live results then because our polls are in the same time zone. So I want to thank you, and hopefully you'll tune in for all of our primaries, and we'll hope to see you then. I'm Charlie, and I am the Country Conservative.
I'm Brendan Statler. Thank you guys for watching us. We hope to see you on the 24th for South Carolina. Until next time, God bless you all.
See ya.